Okay, folks, my name's Carl Walker and I'm standing for the National Health Action Party in East Worthing and Shore. I'm going to start with a bit of an embarrassing story, okay? When my first daughter was born in Worthing Hospital, I went along after a long birth the next morning, and my wife was in the C-section ward. She was obviously very, very tired, and I got in there, and I remember there was lots of women in the beds and lots of babies, and just at that point, the nurse who was talking to me said, "Your daughter needs her nappy changed. Would you like to do it, or shall I?" And it was almost like a pin dropped. It was like an old western, when all of these mothers just looked at me, and looked at me very, very carefully, because one guy had come in just before me and he'd said, "Oh, my shoulder's really bad." And he was sat in the corner. That was the wrong answer. So I came in and I said, yeah, no problem, I can do that. So I took Anna off into the changing room. Now, amazingly, for 9 months, I never thought about changing a nappy. I have no idea what was going through my head, but I got into that room and I had no idea how to do it. So I did what everybody else would do in that situation. I Googled how to change a nappy. And the nurse came in and she saw me frantically trying to Google. And she said, what's going on? I said, look, because she also saw that I tried to do it before I Googled, and it was awful. What was happening down here was not very good. It was an utter failure. And the nurse said to me, look, let me take you through this, okay? And she took me through it step by step. She showed me how to clean it up, what I had done very badly, and she told me how to do it correctly. And it just struck me that was a perfect example that night, and also for all of the care that we received in there, of how attentive, compassionate and incredible those nurses were. Despite all of the things I'd heard about nurses, there's so much misinformation. This idea they're not interested in care, they're not interested in getting their hands dirty, they're not interested in doing all of those things. That is categorically not my experience. And I started to think today about this pledge, thinking about misinformation. And there's so much misinformation, there's so many lies out there about the NHS, and you can see it all the time, and you can see them even I was reading the internet today and I saw that Jeremy Hunt's response to Andy Burnham's speech, or his press release, was, well, I don't even know what he's talking about, because we're not even privatising anyway. And we're not even privatising 70% of tendered contracts to the private sector, and he can't even be bothered denying it. He can't even bother actually accounting or supporting it. It was contemptible. Other examples. Now, there's two of my. There's lots of lies, but there's one. This one's a particularly good one. The fact is, private healthcare services are automatically better. They're more efficient. They will provide better standard of care than public healthcare. No piece of evidence I can find stands up to that. However, that is what you'll see repeatedly in the right-wing press. It's what you'll see uttered by so many politicians, that you end up with people coming to my own family telling me, "Why are you doing this, Carl? Why are you standing for a candidate of the NHS party? Surely we know the NHS isn't fit for purpose. We know it's not as good as private healthcare." There's a propaganda war happening, and at the moment they're very, very good at that propaganda war. And this is, for me, what this pledge is about. This is what we're trying to fight against. It's about holding people to account. The great lie, the number one lie, and I have to read this out because it's important to get the full quote. In a speech to the Royal College of Pathologists, 2009, Cameron said, "With the Conservatives, there'll be no more of the tiresome, meddlesome, top-down restructures that have dominated the last decade of the NHS." When people hear that, is it any surprise that barely 60% of people are actually turning up to vote? People are utterly disaffected because of all of these lies. What this pledge does, as I can see it, is it holds people to account. It holds them to account for the things that they're going to do in Parliament. And that's fundamentally important. So they'll know if the MSK services in West Sussex are going to be privatised. They'll know if the integrated equipment services in Brighton are going to be privatised, along with substance misuse. They will understand that that's what you expect from that candidate, because they're being held to account. I do not want to be, this is a really odd thing to say, bearing in mind my current situation, I do not want to be a parliamentarian. I don't particularly want to be in politics. But if there's one thing I want less, it's to watch my NHS asset stripped. For what reason? Just so that some Bupa executive can get themselves an Aston Martin upgrade. I am not interested in that. The NHS for me is more than a healthcare system. It's a statement of social solidarity. It's an agreement between people in a country that no matter what your situation is, no matter how little money you have, you will always get healthcare free at the point of delivery. That's what the NHS really represents. They have come and they have taken our electricity companies, they've taken our post offices, they've taken our railways, and now they're ripping our universities to pieces with their £9,000 per year charges. And we've all seen how that's worked out. In every single one of those examples, it's very, very clear. We cannot let them do it to the NHS, and that's what this pledge is about tonight.